Yesterday we talked about Lot separating from Avram Avinu. And because Lot separates, HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaks to Avram, Avram gets promises, he begins to acquire the land of Israel. But despite Lot wanting to go it on his own and be separate from Avram Avinu, he soon found himself in dire need of Avram's help. The fourth reading of Parshas Lech Lecha narrates the first global conflict, at least the first big war that we know of. 4 kings came together with 5 kings, or I should say engaged with 5 kings, and the 4 kings defeat the 5 kings. And we have details of the battle, we have the geography spoken of, and in the end, the 4 kings, who are stronger than the 5 kings, and nobody's weak. This is a terrible battle here. They conquer the areas of Sodom, and they take the people and the possessions, all as booty. And not only do they take people and possessions, but in chapter 14, verse 12, the Torah emphasizes, Vayikchu es Lot ve'es rechusho. They were sure to take into captivity Lot and all of his residuals. And the Torah identifies him as Ben Achi Avram, as the nephew of Avram. Vayelechu, and they left. Vahu Yoshev B'Sdom, and he's sitting there in Sodom. So this pasuk raises many question marks. First of all, if they took Kol Rechush Sodom, which says in verse 11, they took all the wealth and residuals, everything from Sodom, Ve'eskol Ochla, all of their population, Vayelechu. So why would the Torah have to specify that they took Lot? Number 1. Number 2, why does the Torah have to tell us who Lot is? They took Lot and his Rechush, and it says Ben Achi Avram. He's the nephew of Avram. We know who Lot is. He's appeared on these pages before. Why do we have to mention specifically who Lot is and that they took all of his wealth? So the Malbim says, well, first of all, you should know that how did Lot get wealthy? Because he was with Avram, that's why. And why do we have to mention that he was Avram's nephew? So because this is the reason that they made sure to capture Lot. It was like they were looking for Lot. They didn't just take captives. Take captives is a wholesale. Take captives. No. They were looking for Lot. Ben Achi Avram. The Ksava Kabbalah says they hated Avram. They hated his faith. They hated what he represented, and they wanted to shame and embarrass him by capturing his nephew and making an example of him. So Lot was headed for some very, very painful times. They were going to basically rip him apart. This is like, they're going to show the whole world. You think Abraham is a god? You think Abraham is protected? You think that, watch what we do to his nephew. And because of this, Avraham Avinu, of course, feels a certain amount of guilt almost. He feels like Avraham Avinu feels like Lot has been captured because of him. And there's truth to that to some degree. Why do we have to emphasize again, V'hu Yeshev B'Sdom? In verse 11 it says that they captured everything in Sodom. Verse 10 says they captured Sodom. Verse 11 says they captured everything in Sodom and they took it away. And then it says they took Lot. And he's in Sodom. Well, he's not in Sodom anymore. He used to be in Sodom, now he's in captivity. Why re-emphasize V'hu Yeshev B'Sdom? So Rashi says the reason that here the verse makes hay of the fact that Lot was in Sodom by telling you that V'hu Yoshev B'Sdom, he is in Sodom, is Mi Goram Lei Zeis. What caused all this? All this tzaras that Lot is having. Lot says, oh, it's Avram's fault. It's because I'm Avram's nephew. No, says the Torah. Mi Goram Lei Zeis, what caused it? Yeshivase B'Sdoim. You went to live amongst the wicked, and the wicked invite wickedness. And so now you're in captivity. So that's the V'hu Yoshev B'Sdom. Okay? Now you put some dramatic music in. What happens now? Right? Bum 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 bum. Vayavei hapolit. The survivor comes. Vayagel Avram ha'ivri. And he tells Avram the Hebrew. V'hu, and he, shochein be'elonei Mamre. He's living in the plains of Mamre. Ha'emori. Achi Eshkol, the brother of Eshkol, Achi Einer, the brother of Einer, Veheim, and they are Balei Bris Avram. Another verse that is rife with suggestion. First of all, it says Vayave hapolit vayagid la'Avram. Okay, the first 4 words I can swallow. Avram ha'ivri. Now we decided to give Avram titles. We didn't hear about Avram ha'ivri for the last few pages. Suddenly now the Torah has to tell us who Avram is, that he's Avram ha'ivri. I know that was his last address. You go to get a license and say, what was your last address? We know the last address. That was his first address, and so far his last address. Avraham Avinu was living in Elonei Mamre. God said to him, I'm going to give this land to you and to your children. Now go and take possession. So he did. He moved in. He got himself an address. He was no longer a nomad, a Bedouin. Now he had a permanent home. So why does the Torah have to emphasize where he was? And this time, we don't just say Elonei Mamre, we say Elonei Mamre ha'amori. We never heard about him being an Amori before. And we're giving all the exact coordinates. He's Elonei Mamre, but Mamre the Amori, who's the brother of Eshkol and the brother of Einar. Oh, and by the way, they are the Bali Bris Avram. They are those who have a covenant with Avram. What's going on over here? So take it from the top. Vayave hapolit. The polit comes. It doesn't say Vayave polit, a survivor came. A survivor could have been anybody. It doesn't say a survivor. It says Vayave hapolit. Hapolit with a hey in front, what we call in Hebrew hey hayedia. This is like a capital THE, the survivor. What was this guy? The survivor? Was he the star of the Survivor show? How do we know he's the survivor? How do you end up with that name? The battle just happened. So Rashi tells us, Lefi Pshuto, because if you follow the verses simply, we're not speaking about the survivor from the battle necessarily, but rather the survivor. Who is the survivor? The survivor refers to Ze Og. This is Og, the giant. Shepolat min ha-milchama. Yes, he survived from the battle of the 4 kings. But Vahusha Kaso, this is what's written later on, much later on. In the beginning of Deuteronomy, it says, Ki rak Og nishar miyeser Raphaim. That Og was the sole survivor. So we say the survivor, there were not any other survivors. There was a survivor, the survivor. The only one who was left from that battle, who escaped from that battle. Rashi says this is the way it's stated in Tanchuma, which is a medrash. And then, Ube Medrash Bereishis Rabbah, in the primary Medrash, it says he is the survivor, but not the survivor of the battle, but rather Ze'og Shapolat Midor Hamabul. He is the sole survivor of the generation of the great flood. That is to say, in Pshuto Shel Mikra, Rashi starts off saying Lefi Pshuto. We talk about a battle. We talk about everybody falling in battle. We talk about captives being taken, and then the very next verse says, and the survivor. Okay, survivor of what? Bepashtos, simply stated, this is a continuation. The verses speak about a battle and those who fell in battle, so the survivor is the survivor from battle. That's Og. Why would he be the survivor? Hapalit? Well, because nobody else survived. So when you have an event, a big event, and there's only one survivor, he will become the survivor. But Rashi says, not so much in a pshuto, but nonetheless, still necessary for the literal meaning, we have to reach for another medrash. And the reason is simple. Lot would not be known as the survivor, Og, for a long time yet. How does everybody know that there's no other survivors? How do we know there's one survivor yet? Sure, in Deuteronomy it shows up, it says, he is the only one who survived the battle. That makes sense. The only way I can understand Hapolit is by going forward 5 books. Here we are in the book of Genesis, jump forward to the book of Deuteronomy, and fast forward 4 centuries, and say, look at that. Look at that. It turns out he was the survivor. But why is he called the survivor here? So therefore Rashi says, I cannot remain only with the Medrash Tanchuma, I must also share with you the Medrash Rabbah, who says that this is a survivor who was already known, and already an established commodity. And how is that? Because he is the survivor of the Mabul. So now it makes sense that he's called the survivor. He was already called the survivor. And now the survivor, once again, claimed title to the survivor. He was the only survivor of the Mabul, save Noach and his family, and now he is the only survivor of that battle. You would say he has some mazel, eh? And Avram, defeats him anyway. So he is the only one left. This is the meaning of what says later on in the book of Deuteronomy, from the remnants of the Raphaites. To the remnants of the Raphaites, Shenemar hanefilim hayu ba'aretz. This refers to which kind of Rephaim? This refers to the fearsome giants. Umiskaven sheyahareg Avraham. What did he want? This fearsome giant who had koyach mazla, as they say. He always dodges the raindrops. He somehow always gets through the trouble. What did he want now, this big tzaddik? You know what he wanted? His intention was that Avraham Avinu should be killed in battle. Why did he want Avraham to die? What did he need a dead Avraham for? Well, he didn't really need a dead Avraham, but he was interested in Sarai. And the only way to get Sarai was to free up Sarai. So he figured, Avraham for sure will feel guilty. I know Avraham's got a heart the size of a football field. Avraham will hear that Lot was taken away. He's not going to be able to just take that quietly. He's not going to be able to swallow that. He's going to go and say, I must save him. And Lot thought to himself, Og thought, great. You go save Lot. Have a nice life. It ain't going to last very long because you have no idea what you're going up against. I know what this battle is. I'm the only survivor. We were 5 kings, 5 militaries, 5 armies, arrayed against 4 armies. They smote us, and this is Og, the giant, the fearsome, mighty warrior. And nobody was left but him. So he figured, I'm going to send Avraham Avinu into this fray. Soon there will be no more Avraham, and then I'll get through to Sarah, and then I can marry her. So now we know the meaning of Hapolit. And he comes with all the bad intentions and wrong reasons. And he tells Avraham Ha'ivri. And why does the Torah here decide to call Avraham Ha'ivri? Sheba me'ever hanor, Rashi says, because he comes from the other side of the river. But really, the other side was Avraham's Moxie. As the Medrash Rabbah says, Rabbi Yehuda says, you know what means Avraham Ha'ivri? Avraham Ha'ivri means Kol ha'olam kulei me'ever echad. The whole world's on one side, and Avraham is me'ever hasheni. He's on the other side. So Avraham wasn't afraid to go up against the whole world. He wasn't afraid. He had the strength, he had the courage, he had the tenacity to go up against impossible situations. And now we know why he's being called Avraham Ha'ivri. And of course, Avraham had his own way, as the Medrash says. He's also called Avraham because he comes from Ever HaNahar, the other side of the river, and he speaks Hebrew, Lashon Ivri. Avraham was known as the Hebrew speaker. Basically, the outsider, the stranger, the different one, the person who didn't go with the flow. And why is Mamre called Emori here? So the Rabbeinu Bechaya says, because this comes from Emori, comes from the terminology of Amira. Amira means to say. He is the one who had given advice to Avraham with regard to the bris milah later. He backed up Avraham with words. He didn't go to battle with Avraham, but he gave him moral support. So how did Avraham have the strength? I mean, okay, he's one guy, he's an Ivri, but still, well, he was in the area of Mamre or Emori, and Mamre lent him his moral support. He said, yeah, you should go. It's the right thing to do. So now we know that Avraham Avinu is an Ivri. He doesn't have fear to go up against the whole world or to engage with impossible situations. And he's got some moral support. They're Bali Bis Avram, they're the friends of Avram. So Avram's got people to watch, so to speak, the home front. He's got a national guard in place. And Avram hears, and he sets off. Verse 14, Vayishma Avram. Avram hears, Ki nishba achiv, that his brother has been taken captive. Vayorok es chanichav. He prepared his proteges. Yelidei Beisei, these are the ones who were born in his house. They knew nothing but Avram. They grew up their whole life with Avram. Shemona Asar, 18 v'sholosh meis, and 300. So 318. Vayirdeif Adon, and he pursued the enemy until a place called Dan. What is the meaning of Vayorok es chanichav? By the way, what does Bali Bris Avram mean? Avram doesn't have a bris milah yet. What does it mean in Pshuta Shel Mikra? So Rashi says, Shekar so imay bris. They made a covenant with Avram. They'd always be there for him. So Avram will be there for you. We're behind you. We back you up. We have the world of respect for you. Rashi brings down in the brackets, Svarim acherim, davar acher, another thing, Hesiu le'etza ala mila. They are the ones who gave him advice. Avraham Avinu, Hashem got a command from God that our bris milah is 99. He turned around to his buddies and said, you hear this? You know what God wants? They said, yeah, it's good. You listen to Hashem. It's worked for you. As explained later on in Rashi. Rashi actually in a few chapters now is going to tell us that Avraham Avinu discussed the possibility of a bris milah with these people and they backed him up. Of course, this is only the Sfarim Achedim, because this doesn't take place till chapter 18, and now we're in chapter 14. So it makes much more sense to say simply that they were behind him. Vayorek. Avraham hears, Vayorek es chanicha. What does it mean, Vayorek? It says Rashi ketargumai. Take a look in the Targum. The Targum says, Vizoreiz. Vizoreiz means he armed them. V'chein, similar, Baharikoisi acharechem chorev. This is a pasuk in the Techacha, and it says, I will unsheath my sword against you. Is dayin, or I will arm myself against you. Is dayin becharbi aleichem. I will raise arms or unsheath arms against you. Or, orik charbi, we find later in Az Yasher. What did the enemy of the Jewish people say? I will unsheath my sword. Because harek really means, or v'harek chanis usgar. This is, I'll arm myself. I'll come openly with weapons. The difference in concealed or open carrying. This is like carrying open, not concealed. Openly armed, ready for battle and conflict. Who is Chanichov, says Rashi. Chanichoi ksiv. It doesn't say Chanichov. We read it, Chanichov, his proteges. But it says Chanichoi. And this is because it says Chanichoi, and we read Chanichov Zeh Eliezer. This is really Eliezer. He was the ultimate protege of Avram. Shechinchoi lemitzvahs. He educated him. He guided him in the performance of mitzvahs. V'hu lashon hascholas knesses adam. This refers to the notion of inaugurating, or a person inaugurating into a position, or kli, or using a vessel, inaugurating a vessel or an artifact into a certain use, l'umanis. Shehu asad la'amid ba, that he's going to use it. So if you're going to use a certain item for a particular reason, you start it off, you inaugurate it, you get it going, so to speak, and then afterwards you use it. So he was educated by Avram. He was set up by Avram to follow Avram. Chanoich lana, we have a similar example. Rashi says in the book of Mishlei, where it says educate a child, or Chanuka Samazbeh. Chanoich lana refers to a person, educate a child, set him up for this new life of Yiddishkeit and morality that you're trying to share with him. Or if we talk about an item, talking about an artifact, we have the Mizbeach, the altar in the Beis HaMikdash, which was inaugurated into use, and that was called Chanuka Samazbeh, the dedication of the Mizbeach. Shmeina Asar, 18. Rabbi Seinu Amru, our rabbi said, and here Rashi continues his commentary from before, Eliezer levade hoya. It was actually really Eliezer. Well, if it's really Eliezer, why does it say 318? Here's the interesting thing. Eliezer is minyan gematria shoshmai. The gematria of Eliezer is 318. Now, either way, what Avraham Avinu did here was basically mission impossible, because he set off with either 318 young men. Even if he arms them, you're going up against the mightiest armies, 4 armies that defeated 5 armies with 318 people. He may as well go single-handedly with Eliezer, all right? He may have. Or he may have gone with 318, and 319 of them may have slunk into 17 may have slunk into the background, and basically was Avram and Eliezer who led the charge. What happened? Well, we're not going to have a chance to read the rest, but let me assure you that everything worked out well. And if we're here, clearly Avraham must have survived, and everything worked out. Here now is an interesting midrash about where did Avraham get the strength from. Please join me in the Biyurim book, page Kuf Samachay, Siman Yud Beis. Here the Rebbe quotes a Bereishis Rabbah on this verse. He says, "Who is Hapolit? Vayave Hapolit vayagid laAvram." Says the Medrash, "Who Og? Who Polit? He's Og. He's Polit. Same guy." V'lama nikra shmoi Og. And why is he called Og? Or why does the Torah record his name as Og? Obviously, he had to be called Og before this event, but why? And Rashi says, if he's sometimes called Polit and sometimes called Og, why don't we just call him Polit? And the answer is, Shabo Matzah es Avram Yeshev. He came and he found Avram busy. What was Avram busy with when Og found him? Yeah, that's a good guess, David. What kind of mitzvahs? Ugos mitzvahs. What's an uga?
Like
Feeding.
Cake.
A cake? Or a wafer? Umatzas Avram Yeshev v'Isaac b'mitzvahs ugos. The mitzvah of cakes. or wafers? Namely, which mitzvah is that? Cakes or matzah? Omar, he said, took a look at Avram. He saw this old man baking matzah. He said, I have an idea. He said, Nishba ben achicha, your nephew, he's captured. You know why, huh? Because he's your nephew. And now they're going to make an example out of him. They're going to show everybody what happens to people of faith, even if you don't believe so much. But if you're connected to a man of faith, that's good enough for them. He thought to himself, I'll tell him your nephew's captured. Avram will never be able to live this down. He will go out, he'll declare war, and of course he'll be killed. And I will walk away with my trophy wife. So this is how he had it all planned out. And of course this is the Bereshit Rabbah that Rashi quotes, only in much shorter fashion. And Rashi leaves out the details of the Uga because, on a Pshuta Shal Mikra level, you call him Og because he found Avram making matzah? You should call Avram Ma'uga then. Like, on a Pshuta Shal level Mikra doesn't really explain to us why his name is Og. But on a Midrashic level, this is a very profound story. It's only after he saw Avram baking matzah that he said, Avram, baking matzah. Let me tell him his nephew was captured. I know now that he will go, risk his life, and try to save his nephew. So the Rebbe says, Tzarech bir. This needs to be better elucidated. L'shei ma metzayin ha-medrash. Why does the medrash bother telling us? Shekisha Og ba l'saper zeis l'Avram. When Og came to tell the news to Avram, the Torah tells us what Avram was doing. Asak Avram b'mitzvahs achilas matzah. Avram was busy eating matzah. What difference does that make? It's like irrelevant. And of course, Rashi doesn't talk about it because on a pshuta shal mikra level, it doesn't make a difference. So, and this is a teaching from one of the Rebbe's early manuscripts, only discovered posthumously after Gimel Tammuz. So, in this early manuscript, the Rebbe suggested, Yesh Leimer, Shebekach metaretz hamedrash she'elin esefes. The Medrash here, by introducing this curious piece of information, answers a big question. What's the big question? What's the big question here? That Avram went and did what he went. It's Avram Avinu. The big question is, how did Lot gamble on the fact that Avram would go? This was mission impossible. He could not have succeeded. Madua Savar Oig, why did Oig think Avram Yetzila Melchama, that Avram would be crazy enough to declare war on 4 mighty kings, 4 armies who just defeated 5 armies? Neged Arba Melachim Giberim, these 4 incredibly powerful armies. And that he would do this not for his own purposes, but lahatzaloi, to save his nephew, the nephew who had abandoned him and followed a life of dissolution and emptiness and vanity because he didn't want to be connected to Avram, because he was tired. He said, I have no patience, not for Avram or for his God. I'm out of here. And I mean, like, why did Og make that cheshbon? How did he come to that conclusion? How was he so certain? He said, I know. I'll tell Avram. I know he's going to get killed. That's not a question. But he'll go to his death, and then I can have Sarah. Davar sheyesh b'sikun gadol is something that has incredible danger. And he's certain that Avram's going to go, and he's equally certain Avram's going to get killed. A family, so you get killed? Well, how will Avram be any better off if he's dead? So not only Lot is dead, Avram's dead too. How will Avram be any wiser? Maybe Avram should negotiate, send him a message, I'm ready to pay, declare war? Use diplomacy. But Avram knows who he's dealing with. And Avram relies on Hashem, but Og became such a big believer. So the Medrash answers the question by telling us that when Og came, Matz Avram Avinu Yeshiv Eisik b'mitzvahs ugas. He was involved with the mitzvah of cakes, of wafers. In other words, Kishara Og Shavram Os Eisik b'mitzvahs matzah. When Og saw that Avram Avinu was busy baking matzah, and matzah is shehi michlud d'mehemenusa. Matzah is called in the Zohar the bread of faith. He saw this exuded faith. He saw this. He knew this is faith. So he says, "Emunah she'eni mugbelas b'chlali haseichel." This is faith that's transcendent of any kind of rhyme and reason and logic. It's a faith that's beyond. And he saw that Avram had such faith. He could see it from the way Avram was eating that matzah. He said, if he has such faith, I don't have faith. Og said, I think he's crazy. I know he's going to get killed. But if he has such faith, His faith is so powerful, I'm sure he'll set forth in battle. Havin shebevada yifel Avram gam ba'ifin she'eni masam l'kol yasechel. Avram will do things that make no sense because he has faith. Great, Avram. Yeah. Oh, your nephew Lot. Let me tell you a little story. And of course, he knows Lech Lecha he will go save Lot b'mesiras nefesh. And of course, that's exactly what happens. Only Og's little plan goes wrong because not only Avram doesn't get killed, but Avram turns out to be fabulously successful, incredibly victorious, and Avram Avinu's fortunes rise in a far greater way than ever before as a result, which Og was never his intention. His intention was not to make Avram look better. His intention was to get rid of Avram. He had no particular fondness for Avram Avinu. And yet, it was Avram's faith that did carry the day, and Hashem's miracles that saved their father Avram, and we are what you call the living proof. That's all.